Lipedema is every woman's nightmare. I say women because it happens much more often in women than in men, right? Does it look like cellulite? A little, but it's not cellulite. It's actually quite different from cellulite. Cellulite responds much better to diet and exercise, but lipedema doesn't. It's much harder to treat. And you'll notice that the fat is mostly located in the lower limbs. Some women will also get it in their upper body, for example, in the triceps area. But overall, it's much more common in the lower limbs. And you'll notice that it's a different kind of fat. If you touch it, you'll see that it's kind of uneven, kind of rubbery, and sometimes even a bit colder because of the lack of circulation in the area. Some women with lipedema will also feel that their legs are heavy. If they stand for too long, they start to feel pain. If you look at the fat, it can build up around the knee. But when they're lying down, it doesn't accumulate as much in the knee. It's different. So you can tell it's a type of fat that doesn't belong there, that isn't normal. For example, a woman who works out, if you look at her, it might seem like you're seeing two different people. The upper part of her body looks one way, it's slimmer, but then lower down, there's that fat that just doesn't match. That's lipedema, which is much more easily diagnosed. Even just by touch or a professional's eye, they'll spot it much more easily that way. Chances are, if you're watching this, you either have lipedema or know someone who does, because the number of women with lipedema is actually pretty high. So in this video, I'm going to dive into lipedema, but I won't get too technical with the information. I'm going to show you things that make lipedema worse, sometimes things you wouldn't even imagine, and things you can do to help improve the situation. All right, let's get started, everyone.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Camila and I am from Brazil. I have a lot of videos in Portuguese and I have a lot of good contents based on my experience with clients and everything that I have been studying over time. And I am translating them using AI to this channel, so I will have a lot of contents. But of course, I will keep recording my own videos with my accent, my English. And if you enjoy them, please subscribe to my channel, share with your friends. Let's grow this community. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Okay, so now you understand what lipedema is. There are different stages of lipedema. You'll see someone with less, and you'll see someone with more. Usually, the person with more will draw a lot more attention. Someone in stage 1 of lipedema has softer fat that's more evenly distributed, but you can still tell that it doesn't quite match up. In stage 2, these nodules start to get bigger, and women may feel a heaviness in their legs. In stage 3, the issues with fibrosis and everything else increase a lot more. And in stage 4, there are already deformities, and women feel a lot of pain. That's the final phase, the last stage. I see this a lot in clients who are more overweight. I get a lot of people at stage 4, but I also see a lot at stage 1 and stage 2 in my consultations. But what causes this? First of all, the genetic factor. If your mother had it, if your grandmother had it, you might end up having it too. But I always say here on my channel that there's something called epigenetics. With epigenetics, you can change your name. Epigenetics is about what you do with your life. It determines whether or not you'll manifest a certain condition. So sometimes a girl might have the condition, she might have lipedema, but she has a really good lifestyle, always maintains a healthy lifestyle. She works out, she has good muscle mass, her hormone levels are okay, so maybe she won't notice the lipedema as much. So you see, epigenetics changes a lot of things. Another thing that worsens lipedema is estradiol. That's why I said women are much more likely to have lipedema than they. Estradiol interferes with lipolysis and promotes lipogenesis. It makes you accumulate fat. I've already told you this. In some videos, I've mentioned that estradiol makes you accumulate fat, especially in the lower limbs. Lipedema is already more likely to cause this. If your estradiol is much higher, this can get worse. In fact, when do you notice lipedema shows up more? When a girl enters puberty. Thank you. When a girl enters adulthood, right? So you see, that's how it is. When estradiol, estrogen, starts to rise, this condition starts to show up more in women. Oh, Camilla, but I'm menopausal, and it showed up for me during menopause. That's a different situation. It can also be caused by the issue of hormonal decline. For example, an imbalance between your estradiol and your testosterone. Besides, lipedema can also be worsened by inflammatory issues, right? I'll talk to you about that a little later on. And just imagine a person going through life. Pause, right? If you sit and think about it, how much has she already intoxicated herself? How much has she already inflamed her body? How much is her insulin sensitivity already not good? Maybe her adrenal glands aren't doing well, right? The body just isn't doing well. So it's a buildup of things. But yes, estrogen can make the situation worse. So with estrogen dominance, you'll notice that a lot of what I'm going to talk about here is already in my videos about estrogen dominance. Things you can do, it's all kind of along the same lines, you know? You'll see that the approaches to solving the problem are very similar. And speaking of estrogen, another thing that can make it worse, and nobody wants to talk about this, society doesn't want to talk about it because it's so common, is the issue of birth control. Especially combined birth control, which contains synthetic hormones like ethinyl estradiol, which most of them have, and a progestin, which are not your natural hormones and will throw your natural hormones out of balance. It will suppress your hormones, you won't ovulate, and you won't produce progesterone. These are things that don't belong in your body that will throw you off balance and make lipedema worse. I mentioned estradiol, and adding synthetic estradiol to your body can really make lipedema much worse. Not to mention, if it's, for example, oral contraceptives, I've already told you this several times here. Oral estrogens, the issue of liver metabolism, making things worse, making circulation worse, all of that is a recipe for disaster. To make lipedema even worse, so if you can, talk to your gynecologist. Maybe consider a contraceptive method that doesn't have hormones. For example, a copper and silver IUD. I have clients in my practice who use it, and they really like it. There aren't many complaints. A copper IUD by itself, girls usually complain about increased flow and inflammation, but a copper and silver IUD is generally much better tolerated. So yeah, it gets worse because of this. It gets worse because of inflammation, which I'm going to talk to you about now, okay? Inflammation gets a lot worse. NPDM really makes inflammation worse, and an inflammatory diet can make it even worse. This can also affect your insulin sensitivity, like I've mentioned several times here. If your insulin sensitivity is compromised, you get more inflamed, you accumulate more fat, it becomes much harder to lose fat, and all of this adds up with your NPDM. That's why it's so hard to get rid of NPDM, right? Another thing, which I talk about a lot here, is that you'll notice it's the same process as how you detox from estrogenic substances, how you metabolize your estrogen. Full of estrogens, environmental pollutants, a lot of that. This can increase the estrogen in your body, right? Full of estrogens, they're endocrine disruptors, okay? They will act on estrogen, but it won't be your natural estrogen, making all those issues I mentioned about fat gain and adipogenesis even worse. Fluid retention, circulation problems, worsening of lipedema. And then you add all of that together? A sedentary lifestyle, even worse. Smoking, women who smoke and also use birth control, but especially being sedentary, all of that is going to make lipedema a lot worse. And another thing that makes it worse, which people don't really think about, is the issue of dysbiosis. If you pay attention to my other videos, I mentioned that people with dysbiosis have a lot of trouble metabolizing estrogen. If you don't metabolize estrogen properly, it keeps recirculating in your body, increasing estrogen dominance and boosting fat accumulation, especially in your lower limbs, particularly with lipedema. And women who have lipedema will have a deficiency in an amino acid called histidine. Histidine is very important for the production of histamine. Histamine isn't just about allergies. People usually associate histamine with allergies, but histamine actually helps in the production of hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid, gastric acid, this is really going to help you a lot with digesting food. So if you don't properly digest your food, you can develop dysbiosis, you might lack amino acids, for example, which help you produce collagen and improve your skin's texture. So you see how important all of this is. And another thing I forgot to mention about birth control pills is the issue of testosterone. Birth control pills increase your SHBG and lower your testosterone. Testosterone plays a big role in body composition, especially in building muscle mass. So the girl ends up with low testosterone and a bunch of hormones that aren't even hers. And then there's estradiol, which isn't her real estradiol. It's synthetic, and the progestin is synthetic too. All these kinds of factors make things much worse. So what do you do about lipedema, right? Well, first, you can consume more foods that contain histidine. Like I told you, women with lipedema will have less of it. It could be, for example, animal proteins. It could be supplements and supplements that indirectly increase histidine. So that's something you can add in. Second, address dysbiosis. It's not just because of histidine, dysbiosis itself is a problem. It can also happen due to dietary issues. So you can improve your whole gut health, which will also help with estrogen metabolism. A less inflammatory diet, like I mentioned to you. Reduce stress and improve your sleep. Like I mentioned in several other videos, poor sleep and unmanaged stress make things a lot worse. For example, issues with insulin, your insulin sensitivity, can cause you to accumulate more fat, retain more fluids, and make lipedema much worse. It's also important for you to reduce exposure to pollutants, which could be from your makeup or cleaning products at home. So you can't get rid of everything that's harmful because it's everywhere, but you can at least reduce your exposure to give your liver a break, to give your liver some rest, so it can metabolize other things. Sometimes, for example, for some clients, it's hydroquinone, chlorella, or spirulina. These are things that will help with detox for a certain period of time. Silymarin, a cilantro tincture, depending on the person's situation. To eliminate, for example, heavy metals, NAC can help improve things even more. This whole detox thing, as I mentioned to you, physical activity also helps as it improves your circulation. Lymphatic drainage can help with fluid retention issues, but it's not going to solve the problem, okay? So you're going to end up becoming dependent. 1, 2, 3 days a week, you go get lymphatic drainage to try to improve the situation. Another thing is gaining muscle mass. That will also improve your skin texture, help with fat distribution, and improve circulation as well. And as for supplements I recommend for inflammation, curcumin with piperine, which is absorbed much better, is a powerful anti-inflammatory, as well as astaxanthin, resveratrol, and omega-3. Quercetin is also a great ally, a strong anti-inflammatory to help you out. If you have estrogen dominance, maybe bioidentical progesterone could help you, but you need a qualified professional. But you can also check out my other videos for natural tips I give to help you reduce your estrogen dominance and in turn reduce all this fat related issue. And another thing that a lot of people don't want to hear, you need to change your birth control. Switch your birth control to a copper or silver IUD, for example. That's going to help you a lot. It will really improve your lipedema. So you see that all these things are kind of interconnected, all the solutions to these problems. Lowering insulin resistance, reducing inflammation, avoiding estrogen dominance, environmental pollutants, sleep, and stress. You see, it's all very similar, right? All the ways people solve problems in their lives are always the same thing, aren't they? Because you see that everything starts with an issue of inflammation, which will worsen circulation, which can lead to estrogen dominance, or maybe something is intoxicating your body, that kind of thing. Well, I could keep talking a lot more about NPDMA here. If you want to know more, you can leave a comment. Send your questions to me. People also ask me a lot in my inbox on Instagram, and then I can record more videos so this one doesn't get too long. And if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, because for sure someone has lipedema, and let's grow this community together.